We have a massive Minnesota Timberwolves trade update to discuss, and that's right, I just said trade, as Tim Connelly has been making moves over this weekend to really position this T-Wolves team really well for the future, bringing back Naz Reid and Julius Randle. But NAW is the odd man out after the signings that have just been made for this team, and while it breaks the hearts of Timberwolves fans to see NAW on the way out, it's just the reality of what has to be done following these signings to stay under that second apron, which would really hurt the Timberwolves' flexibility and ability to make signings out there in the future. So while Nickeil Alexander-Walker is on his way out, we have a new update that it's not going to be for nothing, as there are some trade situations now, specifically with the Atlanta Hawks, that are cooking up behind the scenes for this Timberwolves squad. So we're going to break down what these reports are saying, everything that's come out regarding Nickeil Alexander-Walker's future, and why the Timberwolves just continue their masterclass of asset management over the course of this offseason. So lots of stuff to dive into, but folks, we appreciate all the support. We can get on our first video out here on the channel and stuff like that. Basically, Timberwolves Digest, new channel to cover all the latest news, reports, rumors, everything regarding this team. So if you don't want to miss a single thing with this T-Wolves squad, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. It's free, and you will get all of the latest Timberwolves news during this crazy time of year of NBA free agency. But let's dive into some of this news, because Nickeil Alexander-Walker, of course, is an impending free agent, and after the signings of Naz Reid, who he did give a big congratulations to out there on Instagram, Nickeil Alexander-Walker gave a big congrats to Naz Reid. It seemed it was clear, all the reports are indicating it, the cap situation, just common sense, indicates that NAW is now the odd man out, which sucks to see because he is such a good 3-and-D player, a great personality in the locker room, all of that and in between, but that's the reality of what's happened with this team. But we know Tim Connelly's able to really cook up some nice moves and not let an asset like this walk for nothing. And we have a new report basically revealing that the Hawks are now being more frequently projected by rival teams as the team in pole position ahead of Detroit to acquire Nickeil Alexander-Walker in a potential sign and trade with Minnesota. So you see that there, sign and trade. The Hawks can comfortably absorb Alexander-Walker into their $25.3 million traded player exception that was created a year ago when DeJounte Murray was shipped out to New Orleans. It appears that it would be the Timberwolves this time to create a trade exception in the process. So this is very big for the Minnesota Timberwolves because, of course, when you're a contending team, you don't want to let assets like NAW walk. Now, in the modern NBA, with the second apron, all of the cap rules that have come out, this is something that's more and more of a reality for some of the top teams in the league. And, Connelly did some masterclass, ideation, like last season, trading Karl-Anthony Towns and knowing that you could get this type of contract for Julius Randle, Naz Reid, locked up and done. While it still hurt to see Karl-Anthony Towns trade it didn't feel right in the moment. In the long run, that ended up being the right decision for this T-Wolves team. So now, in this NAW situation, right, where he's an impending free agent, you don't have the cap space to really keep him back, this is a situation where the Timberwolves are going to be able to create some cap flexibility, create some cap maneuvering that you didn't expect you'd be able to have in order to keep this team being competitive, because there's no issue. There's no thoughts about it with NAW leaving. This team is still a championship contender, and any opportunity that arises in order to really continue that path, maintain as much talent as possible on that team, it only makes sense, especially with new ownership, to keep spending money and keep these guys out there in the mix. But you need some different cap flexibility and maneuvers in order to make that continually possible. So the Atlanta Hawks being in the mix, being out here in a signing trade and being able to absorb that contract, because the Hawks have some interesting contracts themselves in terms of, things that are going on there, right? If we take a look at their sort of cap standing, they have a few guys, of course, Trae Young, Jalen Johnson. They just they trade away Terrence Mann to the Nets. These deals aren't official yet, so it's all moving pieces here now. They just acquired Kristaps Porzingis as well, who's fairly expensive. So if they want to bring in NAW, it has to be in that realm of trade exception and stuff like that there. And NAW, of course, is a very valuable piece across the league, right? 9.4 points per game, 3.2 rebounds, 3 assists. But the real value is in the shooting percentages, because this man is out here really just coming out 38% from the three-point line and 47% on corner threes. The optimal role player that can get in anyone's grill. And, you see him out there in the playoffs, just how effective he's been over the past couple seasons, at least disrupting the best wing players, guard players out there on the other team. So you're going to be able to open up some cap space, and you might even be able to get some assets back from the Atlanta Hawks, as they have some guys that are pretty, interesting at the end of their bench. Kobe Buffkin hasn't had a ton of opportunities with that squad, but a former lottery pick has been very, very, an interesting career there. I don't think you're able to or would have that much interest in Okongwu or one of these types of guys, but, there's a potential double sign-in trade with Karis LeVert or different players out there in the mix. There are some interesting options that the T-Wolves can really pursue if they do make this trade with Atlanta. Mohamed Gay is also a guy that's, interesting, athletic, big man and stuff. Again, there's, with the draft picks, the long length 7-footers the T-Wolves drafted in this year's NBA draft, it's less of a need to bring in a guy like Mohamed Gay, but basically, the big value in this is the trade exception because, even though there are some interesting pieces on this, Hawks team, the double sign trade, Karis LeVert could be an interesting, bucket getter for this squad off the bench. 15 points per game will space the floor, but, you have the highs and lows with Karis LeVert, as any team that's had him knows. But, there's some guys, I'm not that interested in a player coming back. The real value in this is the fact that the T-Wolves open up that trade exception because you have Anthony Edwards making, close to $50 million over the next few seasons. That's the reality. Rudy Gobert, of course, locked in at that $35 million per year range, and then that mildly increases over the years, right? You have Julius Randle, you have Jaden McDaniels, you have Naz Reid, you have all these guys under big contracts, as well as Dante DiVincenzo, the $10 million mark. You have Mike Conley for one more year. There's a lot of money tied up in these guys. Of course, you have Rob Dillingham and Shannon Jr., who are going to be effective guys. Luka Garza is out in terms of he didn't have his option picked up, so as well as Josh. So the T-Wolves are putting the chess pieces in place, and given the fact that they're not going to be able to make a ton of moves out there in terms of signings, trades, and stuff, given their cap situation, opening up that trade exception so you have more flexibility if you do try to make a trade down the line, that is absolutely what you are looking for in terms of moves for this T-Wolves team. So very, very happy that especially Naz Reid is being brought back to this team, and Conley's ability to just keep a conference finals contending team around for the last stretch of games. But I don't know. NAW, it does hurt very much to see him go, but him going to the Atlanta Hawks in a sign trade, opening up a trade exception is perfect. But there are some other, valuable pieces, and there's some love for NAW too. One of the greatest strengths in the T-Wolves if they lose NAW is he just plays every single game, including the playoffs. So always healthy, always available, which is, of course, a positive to see. But the Pistons are the other team that are in the mix for NAW, especially after Malik Beasley has that newfound gambling allegation. So basically, Detroit possesses the full mid-level exception, which you would go and get Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and there are a handful of teams ready to pursue. So you'd like to see him go to the Hawks. There still are some teams. It's not a surefire done deal just yet that he's going to go to the Atlanta Hawks despite these reports. But, that's what you want to see to open up that trade exception for Minnesota. So we'll keep you posted on everything that's going on with this team. Again, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing that's going on with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anyways, hit that subscribe button. I'm signing out. Cheers.